Andy Carruthers, welcome to the Marketing for Business podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here in sunny Christchurch.
Mate, this is going to be epic. Look, we've known each other, I don't know, it's probably 15 years.
Yeah.
It'll be all of that. We met through like a common friend at the time, Hamish Conway.
Yeah.
And we were in a mastermind group together, weren't we?
Yeah.
The 10X mastermind. And we had some great adventures inside that mastermind. I learned a lot personally from you, and I'm going to share some of those details today that I learned from you, because I think they're very valuable to the audience. This audience here is definitely, business owners, people looking to get ahead, looking for some opportunities to grow their business. And one of the things you're really good at is, I would say, business optimization, especially from a tech stack perspective. So we're going to go deep into that. But firstly, mate, you're a husband, you're a dad, you're an entrepreneur, tech expert, you're a mountain runner, but you're also a film director. So great, congratulations. Tell me a little bit more about the film that you created, and I've been lucky enough to watch it. And a great piece of I'd say art that you've created.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, so the film that I created is called Tararoa SK.
Yep.
And the film is a story about the heart and spirit of an incredible adventure community in New Zealand. And really the story is 60 years ago, the 4 Wellington tramping clubs created this weekend challenge where you'd leave work at 5 o'clock on Friday, you'd catch the train to Eketahuna, you'd get a taxi to the start of the trail, and over the weekend you would try to traverse the length of the range to get back to work on Monday morning.
And in the film, they talk about how the length it is, and I think that gives to the scale. So how far is it?
So it's actually a little bit over 80 kilometres.
Yeah.
So, which is not particularly far.
No.
But the thing that makes it challenging is that there's the same amount of climb in the traverse as climbing Mount Everest twice from base camp.
That's crazy, right? Yeah. And it's on our back doorstep in Wellington.
Yeah.
I remember when we were in our mastermind group, you thought it was a good idea to take us on a tramp and go up the side of this mountain. And I remember like the only one that was happy about it was you. But I could see your passion for the outdoors. I think that's one of the things you wanted to get across to the boys is, and I remember going up to the top of this mountain, and it was so windy. And in the film, they talked about, I actually thought you had a speech impediment because you mentioned, I thought you were supposed to say the word cloud, but there's actually this other thing called, what was it? Clag. Yeah. So clag is like basically fog, but wet. Yeah. I didn't even know that was a thing, right? And obviously that causes distress, because if you get caught in clag, one, it's wet, one, it's damp, it's good for growing moss, but probably not good for humans.
Not very good for humans at all.
Yeah. And interesting, one thing I noticed, and we did talk about this just before, is the camaraderie. A great saying I learned from Dale Bowman: people come for the content, but they stay for the community. They came for the content of the thrill of doing the traverse and the walk, but actually there's a real community that you've created there now too.
Yeah, I mean, there's been an amazing community created, by a number of people, and one of the things that I always find really fascinating is just kind of this journey that we go on in life to find our people.
Yeah.
And and that community is, to me, it's a great example of, people finding their people. And so it's really cool when you find those communities that you really connect with, that you have a shared passion, and it's really inspiring too, because people are out there doing different things. They're following different inspiration, and that gets shared and it brings people along.
Yeah.
And in the film, there's a number of really key characters that have helped inspire and shape that community.
Yeah.
And those stories, they're really powerful.
Yeah.
And so for me, such an incredible experience making that film and actually interviewing a number of those key characters, including a 93-year-old guy, Dave Kappa, who was, him and his mate Bruce were the first to ever successfully complete that challenge.
That's awesome.
And that was in 1963.
Yeah. One of the things I thought didn't get lost on me while I was watching is the generations that were coming through, and Sir, I don't remember what this is. Graham
Dingle.
Yeah, Sir Graham Dingle. And I just thought, what a character. He was talking about we'd crack 2 raw eggs and have a can of baked beans or spaghetti and get on with it, right? Yeah. And then the new generation comes in and they've got Mars bars, they've got gels, and then the story of the guy he had like 40 gels over the day, which was enough for like how many weeks of vitamin C or something. And he ended up having to go to the doctors because he, and I just thought
he got the runs.
He got the runs, right? and I was just like, how, like the generationals, of even like technology in that, raw eggs versus gels and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. What inspired you to create the film?
So it's about 15 years ago, I went to my first mountain film festival.
Yep.
In Wellington, it was the Banff Mountain Film Festival that does this world tour.
Yep.
And I was sitting there watching these incredible adventure documentaries, and I was completely inspired.
Yeah.
And for many years, I've been playing with video cameras and making little videos. And I thought, man, one day I would love to make an adventure documentary of that type of quality that inspired other people to go on adventures. So
it's very cool.
And then, a few years ago, I've been making lots and lots of, short films and videos, and actually went and did some study and went and trained.
I remember that. I remember when I was in the mastermind with you, you started to, and I think this is a key point, you're in business, or if you're thinking about, hey, I'd love to do something else, well, go and train and learn and do some stuff. I remember you started to go and learn about video, and you started, even some of the clips you started bringing in, you were learning and doing and learning and doing. I thought, that's pretty cool. Like, obviously, then you turned it into a film, right? That's like, it's pretty, it wasn't by accident, right? Like, you actually, and I think most things that you've done where you're very intentional, and we'll talk about the businesses that you had and all that sort of stuff, but very intentional about, hey, I'm going to do something, well, let's do it well.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, when I look around and see, what people are doing, I think it's very easy for us to sometimes only look at a surface layer and go, wow, isn't it awesome that person became an overnight success?
Yeah.
And, I think every time you see that overnight success, if you just scratch a little bit deeper, you'll find that it's not an overnight success.
No.
It's it's a 10,000 hour success.
Yeah.
It's a 10-year or a 20-year success.
Yeah.
People don't become good at stuff just overnight.
No.
Like it's not the way it works. You have to go and put the effort in, you have to have the passion. And and the really cool thing is that if you have the passion and you put the effort in, anything's possible.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and the world will listen.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest thing. I was talking to a guy the other day on the podcast, and my first office was as big as this desk. That literally was it, right? But I talked to my team this morning. I probably spent, I don't know, $70,000-$80,000 on, well, it's probably more than that to be fair, on education and teaching myself and self-education. And I think, because when I noticed at the start of the film, it was an Andy Carruthers original. And I thought, that's really cool, original film. I thought, that's cool, you put your name on it. So, I thought, like, for all the things that you would have done, the trial and the testing and the getting frustrating of video camera settings and all that sort of stuff, and like me, not recording the audio on sometimes, and you didn't give up, and all of a sudden you created this film. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just want to say congratulations, because I thought I enjoyed watching it, and I enjoyed seeing the characters inside it. I thought you brought them to life, and I thought you brought the beautiful scenery to life too. Very, very inspiring part of New Zealand as well. Do I want to run it? Do I want to walk it? Probably want to walk it. Definitely don't want to run it. Hey, so mate, I think when we first met, you were running a business here and a business in Chicago.
Yeah.
Time Zone 1, and that to me was fascinating. You had a creative agency, and it was just amazing that here's a guy turned up and he's got this business running, and you weren't really in the day-to-day, were you?
No.
Yeah. So, and I thought that was even more like intriguing. Like, here's a guy, he's a business owner, he's not involved in the business, and part of the business is in Christchurch, part of the business in Chicago. So how did you get involved in that, and what's some of the learnings there? The good and the bad.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of both. So, how I got involved is one of my closest school mates, Richard. When he finished university, he actually came and worked with me in another business that I was involved in, and he always had an aspiration to create his own creative business.
Yep.
And so about a year or so that after we worked together, he said, "Hey, I'm keen to start this business. Are you keen to partner me with it?" And I was like, "Yep, let's go and do it."
Yep.
And so it turned out that and then there were actually three of us that got together to start this business. And so at that stage, I had another business.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had another business at the same time as well.
So that was kind of my main kind of job, I guess, was running that other business. So we started this business, and my role, for most of the 20 years that I was part of that business, was as the financial director.
Yep.
So I was responsible for managing all of the money, and for managing all of the planning and working with my business partners in the strategic planning and making sure that like our great business idea actually generated a return.
So the concept of the business when you had Time Zone 1 was working in one time zone, like you.
Yes. So this is going back a very long time. We started this business in 1994.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
pre-internet.
Dial up was.
Yeah. It was very in the late 90s. So kind of 3 or 4 years into the business, Richard had a few contacts in the UK.
Yep.
And he went and did a trip to the UK, talked to a bunch of people he knew, and offered to provide our services from New Zealand.
Damn.
And so we renamed the business Time Zone 1 because New Zealand's the first time zone in the world, and that the business was really leveraging time zones and exchange rates to provide great value.
So like we live at the bottom, our exchange rate's a lot less than the UK. Like good value for them. Whatever they spend, they're going to get at some stage. They're getting nearly triple. So that's a smart move, right?
It's today and for many years, it's something that many most businesses use. Most businesses,
today is like
we've got this global connected.
But in 1996, that's like whoa, revolutionary. Like
so, I guess like for those of us as old as me, we're going back to, kind of Skype days. Like our first video calls were Skype calls.
And your ear was getting like disappearing and stuff.
So we grew that business, ended up actually going into the US and pulling out of the UK because we, Richard had developed some better contacts there, and they were a little bit more excited about doing business with New Zealand. And that business has has grown, and I guess one of the claims to fame for that business was that we picked up an account for a very small, unknown business out of Denver, Colorado, called Crocs.
Oh, wow.
And it was time zone 1, and that shared their journey to go from a nothing to a to a global phenomenon.
And what was the how when you started working with them, did you think, well, no one's going to buy these ugly pieces of guess what do you call it? My son loves them, rubber.
Rubber.
Yeah. But I tell you what an unbelievable business, and also what an unbelievable comeback of a business too, right?
Yeah.
What was the big selling point there that you guys worked on? Do you remember it all?
So, we won a number of awards for effective advertising.
Yep.
So,
what was that?
So that is advertising that generates sales.
Nice.
So in America, you have the Effies, which are those awards, and so what we did was not rocket science. No. We made sure that we took great photos. We had a really aggressive media campaign.
Yep. Getting the name out there.
And we had
Crocs is kind of a cool name too, right? Back in the would have been
the advertising was very cool.
Yeah.
We had a great creative team.
Yeah.
And
push a few boundaries with that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. Right? And the client, they were ambitious.
Yeah.
And so it was just it was an incredible kind of whirlwind.
Yeah.
And quite a a really interesting kind of story. They rode that wave of the plastic shoe. But one of the things that they did really well is they bought up hundreds of independent shoe manufacturers over that wave.
Yeah.
Because they knew that just the plastic Croc that was going to be faddish, right? But they were smart.
Yeah.
They bought up and they expanded their range. They created their own retail stores.
Still to today.
They did, built a really good e-commerce, platforms and did a great job.
Yeah. No, and still to the day, my son and all his mates are wearing them. And then I know you go camping, there's a few adults wearing them. There's lots of people wearing them. I get amazed because my son goes to me, Dad, you're going to the States, you need to get me some of these giblets. And I was like, what? And I thought he was talking about giblets. And I said, yeah, but they're inside a chicken. That's what my grandmother used to talk about, the giblets inside a chicken. He said, no, these things that go in, and he had one, and he put it inside the Croc. And I was like, that is genius.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, these kids want these shoes because of this thing here.
Yeah.
And I went to the States, and I went to the store, the Croc store, who had a dedicated area for giblets, and you couldn't get in. Because all the kids were there. And I was just sitting there going, this is incredible.
What an incredible business, right?
I was just like, someone is making a lot of money here. And they were expensive, right? So he wanted someone. I think I only bought him 6. And then a mate of his said, oh, no, you should get them through Temu. So we ended up buying some through Timo, and we got like 200 for the price I bought 6 for in the States. And then all the kids are trading them and talking about them, and now he actually has a blue shoe, and he's got a brand that's a Pac-Man brand on it and stuff, and it's actually pretty cool. But I just thought, you start out with an idea, a croc, and the reason the backstory in that, and it's pretty cool. I've known you all these years. I didn't know that, so that is fascinating, and I just love the way that brand owns their own retail. They're in other retailers too, though.
They are.
And I've been into the retail store here a couple of times because Kerry's tried to get me to get up here, and I always said no, but and I always try them on, but there's always people in there buying them.
Yep.
Yeah, fascinating. So you end up in Chicago as well, right? You look after, was it the Chicago Mile or something like that? You were looking after kind of a brand there, or
So we did quite a lot of work for for tourism in Chicago.
Yeah.
We did some work for the US Army.
Wow.
We helped them with their recruitment campaign for post 9/11.
Wow.
So, we helped them design these huge. So, this recruitment campaign, you'd have these huge trailers, which would go to like NASCAR events.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, big events where heaps of people are.
Heaps of people.
Target market is on point.
Target market's right there.
Yep.
And you'd open up the big truck, and it's just this huge interactive demo recruitment tool.
Yeah,
and
nice.
People come in and they play with the guns and play with the technology, and that was the start of the recruitment campaign.
Like it was like a conversion event
Absolutely.
on a trailer on a truck.
Yeah.
How good.
Yeah.
How good. So you guys were involved in that. It's pretty cool. When you think about running that agency or being part of that financial control of that business, what are some of the real, I guess, things that you can see, hey, this made a real difference in the business and why it grew? And the reason I ask that is we're in a time where for some businesses they are struggling, and I no doubt you would have been through some times where it was tough. You're in 20 years of business, you're going to be through some of those. What are some of those things that you learnt along the way that actually helped you get back on track, or also grow the business from your perspective?
So this is really boring.
But boring actually makes you money.
Yeah.
And I've realised that
in
business. And a smart business owner will start to lean in.
Yeah.
Because they'll know.
Yeah. So in an agency business, you're selling time. And your margin and your the amount of capacity that you're using is everything.
Yeah.
So, if you've got a team of 10 people, you've got 20,000 work hours for the year.
Yeah.
Now, the success of your business is based on what percentage of those 20,000 hours you can bill.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, straight up.
And so, the things that we learnt was that we had to measure, we had to know what was going on all the time.
Yep.
And we had to make sure that we priced appropriately.
Yeah.
And you're always having to have those hard conversations, because in a creative business like this, you get scope creep.
Yeah, big time.
And you have to have it clear, and you have to be willing to always be having the conversation with your clients to say, that's a fantastic idea. We'd love to do that for you.
Yep.
And there's going to be an additional cost for us to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And be really clear on that. I did like what you said there about measuring, like every business should be measuring, right? Yeah. And because if you don't measure, you can't manage, right? Yeah. And I think that's really, really important. It's very hard it's easy, very easy in an agency to just do that other work too, right? And I think for most businesses too.
Yeah.
It's very easy, but But you get a Sparky to come and put some lights and stuff, and you have to put another switch in. He's not going to do that for free, is he?
No.
And you do have to remind yourself of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely one thing as an agency owner we've had to learn to be better at as well. So yeah. Very, very, yeah. So measuring pricing, getting the pricing right, and being, I guess, courageous enough to have those conversations, because hey, if you go out of business, it's not going to be good for them, is it?
Yeah. There are lots of really important things, to a successful business. Another really key one, for Time Zone 1 is having great salespeople.
Yeah.
So my business partner, Richard, just an extraordinary salesperson.
Yep. What made him extraordinary?
Very, very charismatic.
Yep.
A great listener.
Nice. Yeah.
And great energy. Just one of those people that at the party, you want to be around. Because just exuding.
Yeah. Well, one thing, he's actually interested in you, so he's actively listening to understand versus to reply. But when he talks, its energy's there. So people are like, yeah. I was listening to Shark Tank this week. Well, it's not Shark Tank, but Lewis Howes had Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank on, and he was he became a billionaire. But when he arrived in Canada, his family were immigrants, and he was from poverty basically. But he said his life changed the day he decided to have more energy.
Yeah.
And he decided to bring more energy. And there were some moments throughout his life where he got opportunities to showcase that. And he was a big part of that in sales. He said, like, seriously, you are transferring energy. And if you can get all your people in your business, when either they're account manager or they're answering the phone or they're doing whatever, they don't have to be in sales. It should be transferring energy. But you have to lead that, right? It's very cool. Like they're saying, you have those kind of skills, you're going to be good at sales, right?
Yeah.
How good. And then I think there are things that can be learned.
Absolutely, they can be learned.
But you have to have a mindset to want to do it too.
Yeah, you have to want it, right?
Yeah, you got to want it.
Yeah,
that's very cool. So you were fortunate enough. Well, not fortunate enough, but you had a good team there, right?
Amazing team.
So then, okay. So I remember you when we kind of involved in the mastermind. You were getting out of that business. You still had the other business that you were working on and raising money. Was it raising money for?
Yeah. So we did some. So that business is a publishing.
That's right.
A publishing business. So we were selling advertising.
Yep.
We also did a huge amount of. So we had a telephone sales team, and one of the things that we did a lot of outbound telephone sales work in the telecommunications sector.
Yep.
So a long time ago. You had the deregulation that happened in telecommunications and, Clear Communications, who were a new player who came into the market, who, eventually got bought by Telstra.
Yep.
We did a lot of the acquisition work. So we had a team of 30 people in Wellington who would be phoning small businesses. Dialing for dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that still a thing, you reckon? Cold calling and dialing for dollars? Like, is it still going? Like, do you ever hear of anything still going like that? Like,
so, yes, there is. That still exists.
Nice.
I do have a client I work with who has now transitioned to AI calling agents.
Yeah.
So instead of having humans doing the calling, he's got AI agents doing the calling.
Yeah. And how effective is that? Like,
so when you've got a match with your target market and the message you're delivering, there is no difference in the effectiveness.
Yeah.
When that is off slightly, it's not as effective
Wow.
yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was actually talking to someone about this the other day. I'm very interested in how that will play out long term around, that rapport building stuff,
Yeah.
and how, like he was talking about, so he has a thing called emotional personal connection. And so when if he's calling someone in the Hawke's Bay, he researches about the Hawke's Bay, and conversation might start off with, great to see that, the won a new award in the wine and stuff like that. Or if the Hawke's Bay rugby team had just done some good stuff, he'd start off with that kind of stuff. And it was like, wonder if AI can actually do that, and because those
Easily.
That emotional connection with people, I think is really, really what stands out at the moment. But if AI can start then doing that, then that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about AI a bit later.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But then you went and worked for a big kind of financial business.
Business advisory.
Business advisory.
Yeah.
So you started, I guess, meeting more and more business owners, and obviously you've got your skill set that you bring in. And this, I guess, what I was really interested in that optimization sort of stuff. You started to see some real opportunities to help businesses grow. But I think one of the areas that you started to look at was technology. And I think I wanted to talk to you more about this today, because I think there's a real gap in the marketplace for the technology side of business, for just good ma and pa local businesses. I think they're missing that opportunity right now. I think it's one thing I always talk to you about. It's in the too hard basket, and it really is for technology. And look, I'm lucky enough to go and talk. I talk to a lot of businesses most months throughout New Zealand, and they start talking to me about the technology. I don't understand it. It's too hard. So let's talk about some practical things. So you now run a business, and it's, funnily enough, it's
Hard basket.
hard basket. You help business owners really take some of that stuff that is just hard for them. But if you get some technology in the right place, you can actually do some really cool stuff. So let's talk about that. Why did you want to start that business?
So one of my key roles in my businesses was to make sure that we were using good technology to manage those businesses.
Yep.
So in the agency, we needed good job management.
Yep.
So we needed to know what was going on with the jobs. We needed to be able to track, what was going on from a creative perspective, but also obviously, around a time and money perspective. We needed to be able to, operate this global business.
Yep.
And so we kind of had to be at the leading edge of some of that.
Yeah.
And so, I've always been an early adopter for technology, and as the internet developed, suddenly we started to get these tools that larger businesses had been able to develop for years, but suddenly they were accessible for small and medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
So I became, that became my core kind of focus, was how do we drive efficiency?
Yeah.
How do we leverage technology to provide a better customer experience, provide a better team experience, and be more efficient?
Yeah.
Okay. So I absolutely love that work.
Yeah.
And after 20 years of my own businesses, it was time to go and do something different.
Yep.
And so I went and started helping other businesses to do those things, and 5 years ago, I decided it was time to go out on my own.
Nice.
And really just to, kind of double down on connecting apps and automating workflows.
Yeah.
And, I'm one of a small number of certified Zapier experts in New Zealand, and that's my main automation platform.
Just remember, Zapier makes you happier. If you're a business owner, you want to connect that into your brain.
Yeah.
Zapier makes you happier. And we'll talk about why it makes people happier.
Yeah.
So you're one of the few, doing that sort of work?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of businesses using Zapier and lots of people who are great at Zapier. I'm just one of a small number of people that are actually certified and part of their official network.
The cool thing, I think, if you get enough time and you talk to Andy, is actually understands business, because there's a lot of people who understand the technical side, but there's a lot of people that understand the technical side and then the business side. Because I think this is where most businesses get frustrated, because they'll get someone come along and help them with the tech side, but never explain the business side. So there's a real disconnection there. And you use the words I think so important in business, and that's leverage. You got to look at this technology today and say, where can it help me get leverage? And leverage is basically doing more with less, right? And getting an upside. And I think this is a great conversation to have, because we're moving into a world where I think NVIDIA bought out a quantum computer the other day, and it's for $3,000. And they, that technology was just not available. Yeah. And so the likes of all these technologies that you use, they used to be very, very expensive, or you couldn't get them, or you actually had to physically, get the disk and load it and all that sort of stuff. Now, because of the internet and because of the speed of the internet, you can actually get these tools to drive efficiencies and have more leverage. So let's talk about some real practical example, because the people listening, and I get tagged and stuff all the time. Hey, I love the way you get practical examples. Give some practical examples of how you're helping business owners with this type of stuff. So let's go. I know you've got some things there. So
I've got some specific examples here of some recent projects that I've been involved in. So one recent project was actually for an Australian logistics business.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the problem that they had was they have 20 truck drivers out on the road.
Yep.
And they have all of these purchase orders that come through their system. And the current output for those purchase orders is as a PDF document.
Yep.
And what they were having to do is to take that data and to manually key it in to some software, which is a Miro board, which many of you would have heard of. And they set up the Miro boards for the truck drivers on their iPads in the trucks.
Wow.
Now, this manual task was taking one of their key people quite a lot of time.
You got 20 people putting those inputs into,
So what we were able to do using Zapier and using a parser tool is we were able to send the PDF documents into an automation that takes all of the data that we need from the PDFs, formats it appropriately, and then sends it into the correct place inside of the Miro board.
Brilliant.
So that people don't have to do that manual work anymore.
How good. And so that starts with IDing a problem, and no doubt the person doing that entry would have been just over that, like 20 people.
Yeah.
And you can't then scale the business but you just give that person more work.
Yeah.
It would be frustrating for them. Can you see why Zapier now makes you happier? Because that software, and it's just stuff that's been done an old way, just done a new way with technology, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the business becomes more efficient, saves more time, and that person can be put on to do something else.
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing that business owners, they get worried about. The person doing the job gets worried about too. If they don't need me, what am I going to do? But the business is still going to need you.
Yeah.
You're just going to do other things that are more valuable with your time, because that's not a valuable task.
No.
Taking what they've into from a PDF into a Miro board. Yeah, cool. Well, they would have been pretty stoked with that. Well, how many hours do you reckon they would have saved there?
So that that saved them. I think it was about 30 hours a month.
Wow.
So
How does a business owner, how do they ID that how do they know that how did they know that there was a problem? Like, did you put out some content and they saw, we've got a problem, or did they just come to you because they had an idea of a problem that they?
So in this case, they knew they had a problem.
Yeah.
They'd heard about Zapier.
Yep.
They had gone in and had started to try to get it to work in Zapier.
Yeah.
And they ran into a few roadblocks.
Yep.
So they reached out to me through the experts directory.
Brilliant.
And I helped them to solve it. So in that case, they had already identified the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 30 hours a week, 30 hours a month?
30 hours a month.
So when you play that out over a year, that's a lot of time, right?
Huge.
Like, that's huge time saving there, 360 odd hours of time saved. And, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the next one?
Okay, so next one is a retail business. And this is an Auckland retail business. So one of the things they're wanting to do is they're wanting to get reviews from customers that have purchased.
Yep.
So they're using Sin7
Okay. Yep.
to manage their retail business. And for their emails, they're using MailChimp.
Yep.
Two pretty commonly used systems. And so what they wanted to have happen is once the product has been paid for and has been shipped and received by the customer, they want the customer to get an email encouraging them to provide reviews. And there's a sequence of emails. So it's a marketing sequence of emails. So there is actually a standard connection between Sin7 and MailChimp.
Yep.
But it's not very sophisticated.
Yeah.
And didn't enable them to do the workflow that they wanted.
Yep.
So what we did is we used Zapier to manage the workflow.
Nice.
But one of the key kind of clever things we were able to do in here, and one of the things that they were really worried about, and a lot of businesses are worried about.
Yeah, I can just about know what you're going to say.
Yeah. We all have those customers that we don't want to ask for a review because we know they're going to give us a bad review.
Yeah.
Right? So in the process, what I was able to do was I was able to come up with an improvement to their process so that only the customers that they thought they would get a good review from go into this funnel.
Nice.
And so I was able to change a couple of custom settings inside of Sin7 for them so that this automation only works with the ones that they want.
Brilliant. So they could hey, that person come in, tick a box kind of thing, and they would get the sequence. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, so that takes all the kind of the angst out of it because the sequence is only going to someone that they're likely to give you a good review.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that, and I've had those conversations. We don't want to do that because we don't want, they don't want the 10 good reviews because of the one bad review, right? Yeah. Crazy, but that's very cool. And have you seen it? Have they seen an increase in reviews?
So, they went from kind of no reviews to because they weren't asking.
Yeah. Okay, good. And good reviews are so important today.
Yeah.
Like what your customers say about you is so important. Getting known by the success of your clients is one of my number one marketing truths.
Yeah. Nice. For small business, it's just absolutely crucial, right?
Yeah.
So next one. So this is this I think this one's really cool.
Yes.
Right? So this one is for an Auckland accounting business, and they work in a very kind of small niche.
Nice.
Providing providing some accounting services to some specific, a very small kind of specific group of people. And so they have this onboarding process, and the first stage of their onboarding process is there's a form on their website where you answer 5 questions, and the answer to those 5 questions, it sends you an automated email that says rough estimate to solve the problem that you've got will be between X and X. So they had that in place. The next step in their process was to then have a call.
Nice.
Okay. So they have a call, and then from that call, there's then this really complicated questionnaire to complete in order for a firm quote to be provided. Now, what they were doing is they'd have the phone call, they'd then email them a Google Doc that was, it was probably 10 or 12 pages, and it wasn't very user friendly.
No.
It was
overwhelmed with stuff.
it was just hard, right?
Yeah.
So, and then from there, once they got that Google Doc completed, they would then go through and visually analyze it to then go and create a quote inside of Xero.
Wow.
And what we were able to do with Zapier is when people completed the first form, we were able to send that data into Zapier. We were able to pre-populate a second form so that instead of getting a Google Doc, the prospective customer gets a new form which is partially filled out from the 5 answers they've already done. We've put it into a much better into a form which is much more usable.
I like it.
We're able to improve their experience, so it makes it easier for them to complete. Now then, the really cool stuff, right, is once they complete that form and submit it, we're able to use the Zapier automation and the rules in the form to send that data straight into Xero Quotes and to calculate the quote.
Wow.
Exactly.
Based on what
they've completed in that second form.
Nice.
And so now, we have a team member that then goes in. They get a notification that a new quote has been created in Xero. They go and give it a final review. Right, so the automation's done all the heavy lifting for them.
Lifting, yeah.
They go and
leverage.
They go and have a look at it, make sure that it all makes sense, and press the send button.
Brilliant.
So this saved one of their key team members 15 hours a week.
Wow. And that's not a cheap hourly rate. No. And so even what excites me about that is like the machine learning comes into this. And even with Xero's API and the AI that's coming as well. Over a period of time, you'll be able to look at that, and so the person actually won't have to look at those quotes. The learning of that and the accuracy of that, if they ever back costed all those jobs and stuff, which they would because they're accountants using other software, they could see how accurate those quotes were over time and not actually trust that over the next period of time we're not going to actually have to check them. Phenomenal, right? And I guess that's the conversation. It's leverage, right? It's going, okay, what we did another way, and also like you would have been the people that you would have been dealing with would have hated the experience if you were sending them a 10-page Google Doc. I remember Donald Miller, he talks in his book, if you make people consume calories because of your information's too thick, they have to consume calories, and that's why they go away and get distracted, and that would have been a classic example. The drop off would have been, it's more work than it's worth. If someone sent me 10 pages in a Google Doc, but if I get a doc that's already pre-filled, It's already had some information. There is a psychology thing to it around, you've already pre-filled some of the information. So, yeah, once again, I can.
This is mine.
Yeah,
this is my personal form.
Yeah. And now I don't have to. Now there's only so many other parts I need to fill in, and I'll be done. And also, I want to save that problem. How good's that? Eh? Like I can see why you said. But once again, Zapier makes you happier because 15 hours at an hourly rate like that, and can you just imagine when you see the future of that, like how much more efficient? Because it takes time to do quotes.
Yeah,
it
does.
So if you're not having a quote, that's pretty cool.
So the next one,
you can't get better, surely.
So this is pretty cool. I'm not sure if it rates as better.
No.
But it's very cool.
Let me judge that.
Okay, all right. So this is an Australian engineering business.
Well, firstly, it's not that great because it's Australian. So it's just, if it was a New Zealand business, well,
So this business, they provide engineering consulting services. So they have two offices, a team in Brisbane and a team on the Gold Coast. And the problem that they were wanting to solve is they've been growing quite quickly. So their quoting system has been kind of got a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
So what they've decided to do is they decided that they would start using Quotient to manage their quotes, which is a great tool.
Yeah, I use it.
Right. But what they were wanting to do was there was all of this manual work where a quote would get accepted. Then from there, an invoice would need to be created. It would need to be sent to them to pay a deposit.
Yep.
The job details would have to be updated. They're using WorkflowMax.
Okay.
They're using Xero for their financial tool.
Yep.
And because their team's growing, one of the problems that you get into when you have multiple systems like this is you need a lot of your team to have visibility on stuff.
Yep.
But you don't want them all going into your Quotient, to your Xero.
No. WorkflowMax.
Well, I mean, in this case, we probably only want them in WorkflowMax and maybe one other place, but we don't want them going into Quotient. No. We don't want them going into Xero.
Yeah.
So they decided that one of the tools they wanted to use was Zendesk, which again is a great tool.
Yep.
And that they would use Zendesk.
So Zendesk is like a ticketing support, right?
Yeah, ticketing system. So they would use that to be able to kind of give them visibility and track what was happening with each of these quotes.
Nice.
So what we were able to do using Zapier
That's a good idea.
is we were able to, when a customer accepted a quote, we automatically send them a Xero deposit invoice.
Nice.
With a payment link.
Nice.
Now, we have it set up on a rules basis. So if the job is smaller than X value, then they just get an invoice for the full job.
Yep.
If it's above a certain value, then they just get a deposit invoice.
Nice.
They get emailed the invoice with the payment link. Now, as soon as the quote gets created, a Zendesk ticket gets created. When the quote gets accepted, it gets updated as accepted. When the invoice gets paid, the Zendesk ticket gets updated as being paid.
Nice.
And at the same time, we're also with the integration between WorkflowMax and Xero, we are updating WorkflowMax.
Nice.
And one of the things we were able to set up in this automation, which is not part of kind of the standard integration that you have between WorkflowMax and Xero, is we wanted to be able to send the customer a WorkflowMax templated like job scope.
Yep.
And so we set up this really cool automation that enables us to attach that
Cool.
to the email with the Xero invoice and link.
Brilliant.
So, from a customer experience, we're able to tick all of those boxes.
Yeah.
We're able to automate the process so the team aren't having to do this manually.
Yeah.
We're using Zendesk so that everybody knows what's going on. And it's just saving
the visibility, and savings, and also like engineering firms, they're probably a wee bit more old school in some of that sort of stuff. So you're kind of actually bringing them into the new world as well, right?
Yeah.
And one thing will stand out there is the customer experience is better, so their customers will be happier compared to the other engineering firms that they're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
So there's a bigger picture to all of this.
So really cool story. So the team that I work with on this were doing a presentation to the to the wider team, and they were talking about the automation, and they had Zendesk up on the big screen in the boardroom. And while they were sitting there, a quote got accepted, the Zendesk ticket got updated, the invoice got sent. The customer paid it.
Oh, no way.
The Zendesk ticket got updated live on the screen to say that this deposit has been paid.
Yeah.
And nobody had to touch anything.
Wow. Man, so yeah, that's pretty cool, right? Like, how good's that? Good use of software, which software at the end of the day is leverage.
Yeah.
Good use of technology, good use of thinking things through. How do you when you talk to business owners that have these problems, how do you start to see how things can work? You obviously must see how to take a problem and just practically break it down. Is that your skill set in that aspect of it?
Yeah. I mean, my skill set is that I have lots of years of experience inside of my own businesses and working with other businesses that I've seen. Most of the problems I see, I've seen before.
Yeah.
So I know from a business process perspective, kind of what we need to do here.
Yep.
And then I'm also, I've developed my technology skills to become to become proficient at the technology.
Yeah.
But I think, one of the key things that I've learned over the years is it's not about the perfect software.
No. Okay.
So much of using this technology and improving process and efficiency is about understanding what the workflow is, understanding what the skill set is of the people that are going to be interacting and driving it.
Yeah, nice.
And with that information, then designing something which is going to have some. It's going to be the simplest thing for them to be able to manage ongoingly.
Yeah, and that's really important, right? How can you make it simple enough so one, it will get implemented and it's manageable going forward?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it's too confusing, it falls off.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Hey, man, thanks I really appreciate you sharing, some real life examples, right? It must be quite rewarding, to see and deal with business owners knowing that you're actually saving them time, and not only time, but money. It must be very rewarding.
Oh, I mean, it's awesome. I have so much fun in my role.
And awesome. Like, it must have been epic to see that play out when they would have come back to you and, hey, by the way, we made a sale and the whole thing. That's pretty cool. Hey, Andy, we've been going nearly for an hour and I want to go and have lunch with you. So I'm going to put you on the spot. All the experience that you have with business, technology, understanding people. If you were going to start a business today, 2025, what are the 5 things that you would do?
5 things that I would do is, one, the first thing I'd do is identify a problem
Yep.
that
Yeah.
I see that exists in the market.
Yep. And how would you identify that problem?
I would identify it. That really comes into, so initially I'd identify it from the outside influences that I'm seeing.
Yep.
The next thing I would do is I would go and talk to lots of my target audience.
See, this is this expert. So many people don't do that.
Yeah.
They have the idea problem, and that's why I asked you what you do. Most people see a problem they think exists, and then never go talk to anyone, but create the product and then wonder why no one buys them.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I go and talk to a lot of people, and 50.
Yeah.
Probably, 50 people at least.
Yeah. And see how deep that problem is.
Yeah.
Would they give you money for that problem?
Absolutely.
How much of a pain is that problem, and do you need to solve that problem?
The next thing that I would do from there is I would create my order form.
Yep. Nice.
And make a sale.
Yeah. So important, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to have an idea, at least, and you've got people that you've talked to, get an order form.
Yeah.
Bring it. Yeah, make a sale.
Yeah.
Nothing happens till you make a sale, right?
Yeah.
It's all pipe dreams till you make a sale.
Yeah. And then from there, I would, I would use that first project, that first customer or customers, to make sure that I can create a commercially viable model out of it.
Yeah.
Like business isn't business if it's not commercially viable.
No.
And, that's got to line up with the goals that I have for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point, right? What are the goals that you have for the business? And some goals are different for other people, right?
Yeah.
So your commercially viable businesses will be a lot different than someone else's, right?
Yeah.
So you got to actually have some thinking around that too, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then number 5 is you find great people.
Yeah. Yeah, build a team around it,
Build
right?
a team.
Build a team. What do you reckon some of the keys to building a team are? Knowing you have many people you've built in a team now, or you in the past?
Yeah. Look. I mean, it's all about relationships.
Yep.
It's about culture. It's about rapport. It's about understanding, what people need and want out of that, that relationship that you have in your workplace. And, those relationships, depending on the role, vary, and depending on the person.
Yeah.
And, I think that the most successful team members you have, and the most successful teams are the teams that, connect. They have open, robust conversations.
Totally.
They work together. They can play together.
Yeah.
They become really important relationships in your life.
Totally. And I think one of the keys to that is making a safe environment for them to do that, right? And you start to see people grow and have those, if they need to, have those harder conversations because of that environment, which, I've seen you do that over the years, which is really, really cool. Andy, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for coming to Christchurch from windy Wellington. I know you've got some business down here today as well, which is exciting. But how do people reach out to you? And if people are sitting there, because I know there'll be people listening, they'll go, you know what, I'm sick of that old thing that, we have that manual thing, and they think there could be a better way to do it. How do people reach out to you and maybe have a discussion? And do you offer like a chat and how to work some stuff out, work it through? How do people get hold of you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me at my website, which is hardbasket.com. I offer an initial 15-minute video call.
Cool.
You can book in a time just by going to my website, and we'll jump on a video call and have a chat. And
okay, good.
Yeah,
I reckon, like, if you're listening and you think you could make your business more efficient, now's the time. Give Andy a call, have 15 minutes with him, and bring your problem. I think one of the cool things, bring the problem, and Andy will be able to help you talk through it, and then see some solutions. And you've heard today, he just shared a few examples, but you've actually got hundreds of examples of work you've done. So, man, so good to hear you're helping so many more businesses, and really leveraging that technology to help them too. So I really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, one job. You've got one job now. Well, you actually have two jobs. One, you got to contact Andy, because if you're smart and you want to make your business more efficient, you will. And your other job is, all you need to do is share this podcast. Been getting some great tags in on LinkedIn, especially for people sharing the podcast and having some conversation. So I'd love it if you just share the podcast out on LinkedIn or also Instagram. It's great being able to bring guests on like Andy and share with you what he's doing in the world to make the world a better place for business owners. So, hey, share the podcast, and look forward to talking to you soon. And as always, have fun, take action, and always celebrate your victories.